Okay, so today we are going to be working on this 1999 Suzuki GZ250. A really cool story on how we got this cycle. If you want to take a look at that video, link in the description below. But basically we are struggling with a starter clutch slippage problem. It's very similar to any starter clutch that you get on almost any Japanese cycle from about this vintage, maybe 1970 through, say, 2005. Most bikes are going to use this spring and roller style starter clutch. So let's show you what the symptoms are, and then you'll understand what we need to do to fix it. Okay, so we turn our key on there, hold our clutch in. So if you hear there's a bit of it's catching and spinning, cranking over a little bit, but there's also kind of a slap and sort of a grind sound. It's essentially the mechanism which allows the starter clutch to grab hold and spin the engine over. So we're going to go ahead and disassemble the left side of the engine here and take a look. Okay, so we're going to remove this sprocket cover here. These are 7mm fasteners. And these 8 fasteners here are 8mm. Okay, we'll go ahead and pop this cover off then. And this is going to leak a little bit of oil, which is totally normal. All right, pull that out of our way here. Okay, so essentially what's happening is the starter motor is right here, and this little gear rides on a peg right there. So when you activate the starter motor, it spins this intermediate gear, which then spins this gear here on the back, if you can see that behind the flywheel, and that cranks over the engine. How it's supposed to function is it slips in one direction this way, but if it spins the other way with the power of the motor, it cranks over the engine. So it's supposed to slip in one direction and grab in the other direction. So the problem that we're having is in that counterclockwise direction, it is not fully grabbing on. So we need to remove the flywheel and then disassemble the starter clutch Sprag gear behind that mechanism. Okay, and you're going to want to use an impact driver to remove this, or some other tool of holding the flywheel, because if you simply spin on this with a conventional socket ratchet handle, it's going to try and crank the engine over. So you need some kind of powered tool in order to get that loose, or a grab tool here as well. Okay. See if we can pull all of this off at once. Okay, and be careful there, we got a couple of parts coming loose. We'll just pull these here. Okay, so here's the roller and pin setup. They're slightly offset from the center so that when it spins in one direction, it is allowed to slip and freewheel. But if it spins in the other direction, it actually comes toward the center of the circle, and all three of them together squeeze down on that center gear. This outside diameter here is what is gripped by the set of 3 rollers. So we're just inspecting this part as well. Sometimes this outer Sprag clutch housing can get a crack or something in here. And this one looks good, and there are no significant dents, cracks, flat spots, anything going on with the large gear here either. Underneath here, there's the roller. These are referred to as a pin. And holding all of that together is a spring. We'll be replacing all 3 of those components on all 3 spots there. Okay, we're going to put the spring in there, followed by a cap. And then a roller, and it's essentially the same for all 3. Okay, we'll put our little plate on there just to kind of keep things together. Keep everything sandwiched in place. Set it back down on top. And then we'll run them down evenly. So when you're cranking over the engine, it's spinning over this way. But once the engine catches it and it starts to run, the speed overcomes that momentum, and this just freewheels like that constantly. That's why the parts wear out over time. Okay, on the end of the crankshaft here, there's a little Woodruff key, and that holds the flywheel on a certain position. And down inside our flywheel, there's a matching keyway there that Woodruff key slides into to keep everything lined up. And we'll just take the whole shebang, line it up with that key I mentioned. And here's another demonstration of how that would work. Basically, it freewheels when it's going counterclockwise, but you see the large gear at the back is going with in one direction only. And then we have this intermediate gear. I just need to inspect that, make sure all the teeth are in good order. And then everything is in order there. We've got the pin in, our intermediate gear, and the starter motor gear, and then that Sprag clutch gear. Everything is back the way it should be. We can toss the cover back on and see what we get. Okay, so we have everything back together. Let's turn our key on and try and crank. Okay, so we have our starter clutch rebuilt there. No grinding or any kind of metallic noises. It seems to be cranking over very nice and smoothly. Pretty easy task. Some bikes are harder than others, of course. Typically, removing the flywheel is the part that people get stuck with. A lot of bikes, you need a special flywheel remover tool. And it's most important to double check if that flywheel bolt on the end is conventional threads or left-hand threads. This is a conventional lefty-loosey style bolt there, so that was pretty simple. But it was a great time sharing this with you. In any case, I'm Miles. You're extraordinary. We'll see you next time.
This video is sponsored by the Cadillac SRX.